In the name of the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit, one God, amen. And let me bring it back to the slides. Okay. So you guys know that Lent starts on Monday. And you guys know the setup. There's 1 week of preparation week, and then you have 40 days of the Great Lent, the actual Great Lent. And then we have Holy Week. And they're actually kind of separate events. The Great Lent is the 40 days that Jesus fasted, and then Holy Week has like nothing to do with that, right? It's just, they're just kind of tacked on to each other. And so I kind of want to talk to you a little bit about Lent and thinking about, what it is and what it's not, most importantly. So I have this nice picture up here, and the one on the left, so make sure it's my left and your left. I get things reversed. The one on the left is kind of where we are now, right? So this is aridity, right? Sorry, Claire, same talk from last night.
Oh, it's the same talk?
Yeah, I'll try to change it up.
Okay.
I'll use sock puppets and stuff. It'll be cool. What was I talking about? So the one on the left is kind of where we are now, as far as, don't let me forget, I have Orban. Note to self. Oh, note to all of you. And that's us, right? This is this dry, broken, hard, sun-baked land, right? And nothing grows in that kind of land, okay? And where we want to end up is on the right? Flowers, yellow, blue, purple, red, whatever orange flowers are there. And you guys know that the word Lent means spring, okay? And Lent always ends in the spring. And so I want to get from this dry land to the spring, right? And so this is my current state, okay? And nothing grows in this kind of land, right? And why not? And Clara, you can't say anything, so you just... Why don't you just lean back and relax? She's gonna flex on all of you. They called me to St. Monica last night, like 2 hours before the meeting. Like, we don't have a speaker. So why won't anything grow on that land? You're gonna stop now. You and your coffee. Why won't anything grow on that land? Because if you throw seeds onto that land, right, the land's too hard. It won't absorb it, right? The seed won't grow. Seed has to fall in, right? And we see this even in the parable of the sower, right? He threw there's four kinds of ground. One of them was the hard pathway, the walkway, right? And what happened to the seed that was on the hard pathway? Clara? Oh, didn't say about that talk.
Oh, it didn't grow.
Yeah, but why not? No, wrong.
We're gonna talk about the
No, okay. Are you trying to ruin it?
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. In the parable, in the Bible, why didn't it grow when it landed on the hard pathway? Who remembers from the parable? Yeah.
The roots, it couldn't form roots. It had no foundation.
That was the stony ground. What about the hard ground? What happened? What did they say? The birds would come and pluck the seeds, eat the seeds, right? So the seeds just sit there until the birds come, and birds love seeds, and they would eat the seeds, okay? So it doesn't grow, okay? And what we want to do is we want to get to the part where the soil will grow, because, right, where the soil will grow, okay? So Lent comes along, sees us in this state, and this is Lent, right? As Clara was trying to ruin, this is the plow. Okay, and what does the plow do?
It breaks you.
Okay, so you can see. Okay, you're going to leave now. The plow is there to break up the hard soil, right? And so this is ultimately the objective of Lent, right? And in the old days, you either had an ox pull this plow, or horribly. In the U.S., how did you do it? You had slaves pull the plow, right? And you would strap something onto them, and they would pull, and they would try to pull this blade through the ground and break up the soil, okay? And this breaking of the soil is very important, right, for us spiritually as people. And this happens in a variety of ways, but this is ultimately the goal of Lent. And that's why Lent doesn't feel good. And it shouldn't, right? We should come out of Lent not feeling great. We should actually, when Lent starts, usually people are like, yeah, I messed up Lent like in the first week or the first day of Lent, right? And the reason Lent doesn't feel good is because this process happens, right? This kind of breaking up of our personality, of ourselves, right? There's a pain that happens with Lent, right? And if you come out of Lent and you feel good about Lent, you did something wrong, right? If you come out of Lent and you're like, I killed it, it was a great Lent, best Lent ever, then you did something wrong, right? Because how does anyone come out of a battle? I mean, how does this ground feel? If this ground could speak right now, how would this ground feel? Look at it. Does it look like it's pleasant? Like what the plow is doing to the ground? If the ground could speak, it would say, ouch. This sucks. This hurts real bad, right? And so when you come out of any situation like this, right, you don't look good, right? And Lent is a battle. Lent is a war. And it's a war not just with Satan, with ourselves. And any battle, you come out of any battle, like you look at any soldier, a gladiator that comes out of a fight, UFC fighter, right? At the end of a UFC fight, not that any of you guys watch that stuff, but if you did, what does the winner look like? He looks like crap, right? He's beaten up, he's got his nose broken, he's got blood coming out of his eyeballs, and he's the winner, right? Because he was in battle, he was fighting, right? Gladiator comes out of a battle, he's got puncture wounds, he's got blood coming out of his nose. That's what a battle looks like. If a gladiator comes out of a fight and he looks like a supermodel and his hair's in place and everything looks great and his nose is powdered, and then he wasn't fighting, he was modeling, right? And so the Lent is designed to be this very difficult process, okay? And I want to note that I haven't talked about Taco Bell yet, right? We're not talking about Taco Bell. We're not talking about Impossible Burgers. We're not talking about this basbousa that my mom makes that tastes just like fitari, right? That, unfortunately, has become kind of the norm. And I've heard so many priests and clergy and servants, when they talk about fasting, they talk about the food over and over and over again. And you all know it inside, you've heard it, but it's really not about the food at all. So I like this quote. It's from Focus on the Family. It says, "There was a day when I died. I died to myself, my opinions, my preferences, my tastes, and my will. Died to the world, to its approval or its censure. Died to the approval or blame even of my brethren or friends. And since then I have studied only to show myself approved unto God." Let's go through the first sentence. A day when I died to myself, my opinions, my preferences, my taste, and my will. This is an incredibly hard sentence. This is all of us. This is how my friends talk to me. This is where I want to go eat. This is how I want my parents to interact with me. This is how I want to serve. This is how everything that happens in my life, my preferences. I want to wear these clothes. I want to go eat here. I want to go do this. I want to watch that movie. I want to hang out and do that. And my will. I want you to treat me like this. I want you to talk to me like that. I want you to respect me like this. I want you to interact with me like this. This is what I want. And this guy is saying, I died to that. This is what Lent is. It's nothing to do with Taco Bell. It's about the spiritual struggle, right? It's about breaking up me, breaking up myself. All the things that I want, the way I want to be treated, the way I want to be interacted with, the things I want to do, slowly, Lent is there to end it. Right? And Lent is one of these times when we push. We push ourselves in so many different ways. All right, let me continue. Died to the world, its approval or censure. And this is more relevant for you guys than it's been for any other generation in the history of Earth. Died to its approval. Think about what that entails when you think about social media. Died to its approval. The world. I don't care what the world thinks. Juxtapose that with likes and posts and shares and all the crap that's out there. Views and all the things that we're doing, where all we're doing is living for approval of the world. That's all we want. That's the only thing that occupies us. How many of us have gone back to look at our posts and how many shares and how many likes and how many whatevers we got? And then when it goes viral and people, not viral, when it goes like higher than 7, we're like, wow, more than 7 people like this. You know, I even felt it when in my TikTok video, you know, I am a TikTok celebrity. When my TikTok video went viral, I had never felt this before. And then, you know, I had no idea that she actually did the TikTok video. And then someone said, you know, it's going viral. And I'm like, wow. So send it to me. Like, I don't know, I don't have TikTok, so I don't even know how I saw it. But like, yeah, you could see and I read the comments and I looked at them and like, wow, it got to me. And I'm like, man, it must really get to everybody else. Like, really? So here it's saying, die to the world and its approval. That's big. That's hard. Like, not care. Die to myself, not care. Right? And this is ultimately what we do when we go out into the desert, into the arena. And this is what the monks called the desert. They called it the arena. The arena is where the gladiators fight. And they would go to the desert and they say, this is where we go to fight. In fact, St. Anthony, when he first started, do you know where he lived? He lived in a catacomb. He lived where dead people are, right? A grave. Like, but it's under the ground. And he just lived there. And he would go in there, and his disciples would hear battles inside, to the point where they got so scared, they broke down his door because they heard such fighting. And it turns out he was actually physically being attacked by Satan, to the point where one time they went in, they broke down his door, they found him unconscious. Satan had beat him unconscious. There's no other people there. They'd beaten him unconscious. They took him and put him in a church. They took him to a church, left him there overnight because they thought he was going to die. And he woke up kind of out of his, after being unconscious, and said, take me back to my cell. I'm not done fighting. It's kind of like, when someone, tries to catch a ball, right? And, the funny story, like they try to catch a ball and then they get knocked unconscious trying to do it. And then they wake up, they go, did I score? Right? That's like the first question they ask, right? This is kind of what St. Anthony did. He woke up and said, take me back. I'm not done fighting, right? So this is the kind of battle he would wage. And the battles were very physical sometimes, but they're very subtle. Like one time Satan, as he was walking, he sees a gold coin on the ground. Shiny gold coin. And he stops. There's a gold coin on the ground. And then he thinks to himself, why is there a gold coin on the ground? What if I pick that up? I'm a monk. What do I need a gold coin for? I thought God fed me. I thought God took care of me. What am I going to do? I'm going to save it. What am I going to use it for? So he looked at it, and then he just walked away from it. Does anybody know what happened? The gold coin sank into the sand. There was no gold coin. It was an illusion from Satan. What did Satan want to do? Just bend over and pick it up. That's it. Just bend over and pick it up. That's the level at which Satan battled him. And had he bent over and picked it up, what do you think would have happened? He would have picked it up, thought it was a gold coin, and he saw it was sand. And then he would have felt like crap. He's like, what did I do? Who am I? Am I even a monk? And he would have been discouraged. So Satan was trying to discourage him. He was trying to break his will. Not the head-on approach that, we think of. The subtle break his will approach. Like, you're not even a real monk. You suck. You're not even a good person. You're not a good Christian. You always fail. And I want you to know that when you go to Lent and you fail, which you will, and you mess up, which you will, that the voice that you hear that says you always mess up, you always suck, you can't control yourself at all, that voice is Satan's voice. So the voice that tells you you're bad, that's Satan's voice. The voice that tells you you're not worth it, that you're no good, that you'll never do this, you'll never be a good, that's Satan's voice. And so the devil wanted him to pick up a coin just so that he could make him feel bad about himself. Because that's one of the ways Satan breaks us. Feel bad about yourself. You're no good. Everyone's right about you. You're just a piece of garbage. The aunts and uncles were all right. The gossip machines, they all had it right all along. Right? And that's Satan's weapon against us. So when we go to battle, it's a lot of it's up here. A lot of it is, I will not stay down. I am the Son of God. He's my dad. Right? And just as much as you can't imagine, hopefully, right, your dad ever walking out on you or turning his back on you or just saying you're a piece of garbage and you're not my son or daughter, your parent will always be there for you. Hopefully. Parents are broken people too. But ideally, right, that's the warfare, right? And I'm sure the prodigal son had that warfare, right? I'm sure he thought to himself, I wonder if my dad will take me back. In fact, he had a backup plan, didn't he? He actually planned on his dad not taking him back. Do you guys remember? What did he say? I'll be your servant. Father, I've sinned against heaven and before you. I'm not worthy to be called your son, so make me as your hired servant. He already had the backup plan baked in. He's not going to take me back. So I'll know what I'll say. I'll tell him I'll be a servant and just pay me. Give me a wage. Let me live with the other servants. That's what he expected, right? Who told him that? Who gave him that idea? Who told him your dad won't take you back? Was it God? No, because what did God do? He ran to him and threw his arms around him. So that wasn't from God. So who told him, your dad's not going to take you back? Satan did. So who tells us we're failures? Who tells us we suck? Who tells us we're just bad people and we might as well just mess up because we're just pieces of garbage anyway? That doesn't come from God. That comes from Satan. Right? That comes from other people around us who Satan uses to demean us and to break us and to kill our will and to kill our self-esteem. Right? So those words aren't God's words. So when we go out to that battle, the battle is against Satan and it's against ourselves. And it's against the parts of ourselves that are ugly and broken. And that's the part we have to fight. And they don't have to necessarily be sinful parts. He's saying here, my opinions, my preference, my taste, my will. And that could be anything. How I dress, what I wear, what I have for breakfast, where I go to school, what car I drive, what shows I want to watch. All those things. And how many times have you sat with a friend and say, I already watched that show, I don't want to watch it, I want to watch this one. No, let's watch this one. Oh, I don't want to watch that one. What's that? That's my will. It's my preference. And how many fights have I gotten in with a friend because they want to do what they want to do and they never want to do what I want to do. They never ask me what I want to do and they always do what they want to do. How many fights have we gotten in over those things? That's my will. So you guys know this quote. I've said it many times, right? If we die before we die, then we don't die when we die. right, from a monastery on Mount Athos on one of the walls. Right? And so this death is part of life. That's the cycle, right? And God teaches us this cycle through nature. How? Every year, you have to be in the northern part of the country mostly to see it. All the trees die. Everything dies. The leaves fall and the trees die. And God's wants to teach us that, no, you don't understand. They're not dead. Life springs forth from death. Death comes first, and then life comes in the spring. That's the word Lent. The word Lent means spring. Right? So life comes out of death. That's the lesson Christ gave us through the resurrection. No resurrection without crucifixion. First, crucifixion, then resurrection. So there's a big part of our lives that's just trying to kill us. Us trying to kill us. Us trying to kill the part of us that isn't good. Right? The old man, the ugly parts, the greedy part, the jealous part, the selfish part, the lustful part, the angry part, the vengeful part, the jealous part, the part that I don't want other people to be happy and I want to be more, important or popular or whatever than this other person. And when this other person succeeds, I kind of get upset and don't like it. That's the ugly part, and none of us like that part in ourselves. We all have it. But that's the part we have to battle against. So there's a great quote by Father Matthew the Poor. He says, "Walk cautiously, patiently, humbly. Know that God is at work to destroy the false you." God is at work to destroy the false you and revive the image of God who is the real you. Again, the old Adam, the old man, has to die. That's the false you. So actually the sinful you is the false you. It's not the real you, right? And St. Athanasius, when he talks about people's image, he says it's like a mirror that's distorted. You guys ever been to those carnivals where you walk and the funny mirrors are there, right? Like one makes you look really fat, one makes you look really tall, one makes you look, your head's really big. Those funny mirrors, right? This to me is what sin does to us, right? It distorts our image. The image is God. We are the image and likeness of our Father. And then sin distorts the image. So I look in the mirror and I see someone really tall or has a really long face or a really long torso or whatever the case may be the mirror is doing. But that's not the real me, right? And the trick to life, to having friends, to relationships is when I look in the mirror and I see my friend with a really long face, I have to say to myself, well, I know my friend doesn't have a face like that. That's not my friend. That's my friend, right? And unfortunately, we look at the distorted image and we say, look how fat you are. And I'm like, yeah, but that's the mirror, bro. I'm not like that. But we look at the distorted image and we say, that person is distorted. Instead, we don't look at the actual person that's really there. The image and likeness of God, the goodness in people. And the key to people who are happy is they see the good in everybody. And the people who are miserable see the bad in everybody. They see the ugly in everybody. Right? There's elder Porphyrios talks about the bee and the fly. Did I tell you the story? He says there's two kinds of people in the world, right? If you tell a fly to go into that room, go into a restaurant. So the fly goes into the restaurant, and then fly comes out and you ask the fly, what's in the restaurant? What's the fly going to say? Well, there's some garbage over there. There's a cockroach in the corner. There's food scraps on the ground. There's poop over there from the dog. That's what the fly saw. So ask the fly what's inside the restaurant. He'll tell you garbage and poop and vomit. Then you send a bee into the restaurant. And then the bee comes out and you say, hey, what's in the restaurant? The The bee says there's flowers, and there's some fruit, and there's some nectar, and there's all these beautiful things in the restaurant. So the bee went to the flowers, and the fly went to the garbage. Same restaurant, same place, right? But some people see the good, and some people see the bad. And the key is to be the bee. See the good. Don't look for the bad. There's plenty of bad. It's easy to see bad, right? And it's easy to see bad in other people. You know, every once in a while I'll be talking to someone, to a couple, and he'll like say, "You don't understand what she's like." And then I'll just turn to him and I'll say, "Let me tell you exactly what she's like." And I'll list everything wrong with her. And he'll be shocked. And I'll be like, "Yeah, I see it. That doesn't make her bad. That's just the mirror. Don't look at that mirror. I can tell you what the image looks like. Her head's really long and she looks really fat and whatever. And the torso's distorted, but that's not her. Right? Don't see that. Look at her, the real her." So he says, "Know that God is at work to destroy the false you. This will not happen without your permission. You can choose to be the false you the rest of your miserable life." Strong words. You can choose because God can't do it without you. Right? In the Igbe, at the end of each hour, the conclusion prayer of each hour, it says, and everyone's translation is different, I realize, but it says, "Sanctify our souls, make chaste our bodies, correct our thoughts, purify our intentions, heal our sickness, remit our sins." Remember this? So if you think of the direction all that is, sanctify our souls, make chaste our bodies, correct our thoughts, purify our intention. God does to me, right? And as Mike Hanna said a month or two ago at the park, he says, "The struggle is ours and the victory is God's." God gives the victory, we give the struggle. We do the work. But God is at work to destroy the false us. So if that's the case, the red question up there is, who's the tractor? God's the tractor. God's doing the things that break us up. He's sending us those relationships. He's sending us those problems. He's sending us these issues. He's allowing Satan to do these things to us. Why? Because we need to be broken up, right? You don't learn how to love by having easy people in your life, right? That's not going to teach you how to love. How you can learn how to love? You got to get a jerk. Real jerk. Now you're going to learn how to love, right? You don't get patient by talking to someone who's witty and smart and can go back and forth at the same pace you can go. You learn to be patient by talking to someone with a speech disorder, someone who's slow, someone who doesn't speak fast, who doesn't think well. And then you got to learn how to be patient. Talk with a child. Talk with someone with special needs. That'll teach you patience, right? So God sends us these things, right? In fact, in the book Grain of Wheat, I mentioned this last night, he even talks about all the things God sends us, right? Whether they be relationships or problems or diseases or weather that humble us. And I remember I didn't get the weather thing until I moved to Michigan. And then you realize weather humbles you. In California, you're the boss man, right? You walk out anytime, I own this place. I don't even check the weather. You live in Michigan, you're a fool if you go out without checking the weather, right? Every morning, you check the weather because the weather wins every time. And the weather humbles you, right? You are subject to the weather. It breaks you. It hurts you if you mess up. And one of the things he mentioned in this book, he said even insects do this to us. And I thought about insects and I thought, wow, when you go to a monastery, what's always the insect of choice that's there? Mosquitoes, right? And you're there for that 1 or 2 nights and the mosquitoes eat you up alive. And you're like, good God, I can't wait to get home. And you think about these monks and they're with the mosquitoes every day. They know the names of every single mosquito in their cell, right? And these mosquitoes are just going at them. And this guy's thinking, these mosquitoes, they're helping me. They're helping me care less. You guys ever watch these documentaries on Africa or Ethiopia where, these kids are starving and stuff like that? You ever notice the flies? What'd you notice? The flies land on them and they don't shoo them. You never noticed this? Sometimes they're walking on their eyelids, their eyeballs, their eyelashes. And I'm just like, ah. And the flies just walking around and they don't shoo the flies. I would be like this all the time, right? How long are you going to keep doing this? Eventually, you stop. You kind of have to. Eventually, you don't feel the flies. They don't bother you. One time I was sitting with a monk, and there were flies everywhere. It was in Egypt, it was in the summer. And they were driving me crazy. I couldn't stop. I was literally just going like this. It was just, and then the stupid flies that stick to you, right? They don't move, that you shoo them, they don't even move. And he's just sitting there, and they weren't bothering him. And I even said, Abuna, you're not even shooing the fly. He's like, khalas bana. Right? Why? The part of him that gets bothered by flies is what? It's dead. It doesn't bother him anymore, right? So the part of you that reacts when your friend pisses you off, when your mom says something, when your dad says something, when your buddy says something, right? Or when things don't go your way, that part of you that reacts, that gets really angry, that goes crazy, that slams doors, that gets really upset, that punches walls, that hits their sibling, eventually, what? That part's going to die. And your sibling will do the same thing, and you'll be just like, all right. Sometimes you even giggle. You're like, that used to bother me. It doesn't anymore. And you probably have started to experience some of that now, right? Where the things that used to upset you, you're like, yeah, that used to bother me. It doesn't. I'm over it. I used to go rage when that happened, right? But this doesn't happen without your permission. And you can be the false you, the image, the distorted image, the one with the weird head and the weird torso, as he says, to be the false you the rest of your miserable life. And you will be miserable because that's not what we're called to be. We're not called to look like that. We're not called to be ugly. No one likes to be ugly. I'm not talking about physical ugly, of course. I'm talking about ugly. When you're jealous, you're bitter, you hate, you're not happy for people, you don't love. That's ugly, right? And when you see it in yourself, it's not pleasant. When someone points it out to you, you're just jealous. You're just being a jerk. You're being an a-hole. You're like, no, I'm not. And then you sit with yourself for an hour or two, a day, and you're like, yep, that's what I was doing. Just all ego. It's ugly. It's not pleasant. But that's the part that if you sit in that and you fight God, and you have to fight God, because he's a tractor. You have to fight him and say no. Do people do that? All the time. I can't tell you how many people, older people, unfortunately, it's like, well, you got to try. I'm not going to try. I don't want to try. I'm just going to lay down and die. I'm going to lay down in this. So you're going to lay down on a bed of poop. Yep. And you're just going to stay there. I'm going to stay down. That choice is hell. That's the definition of hell. You have chosen hell. God doesn't choose hell for us. You know that, right? We choose it. We pick it. We say, I'm going to lay down in the poop and I'm going to stay there. Just like the prodigal son, sitting in the pigsty, sitting in the feces of the pig. Do some people stay in the feces of the pig when they can live in their dad's home and have servants and have food and have all the things? And say, no, I'm going to stay with the pigs and live like a pig. Do people choose that? All the time. That's hell. They've already chosen it. And then some people say, no, I will get up, I will go to my dad, and I will ask for forgiveness. And dad comes running. Have I talked about bean burritos yet? No. So this is the goal, right? This is spring. This is what Lent is, right? This is the fight of Lent. And it isn't about the food, right? And in fact, when you think about life, life is full of disappointment, right? As I've said many times, life sucks, right? I want to go to this school, but I got into that school. I want to have this kind of friend, but I got that kind of friend. I wish I had this kind of dad, but I have that kind of dad. I wish I had this kind of wife, but I have that kind of wife. I wish I had this kind of husband, but I have that kind of husband. I wish I had this kind of kid, but I have that kind of kid. I wish my boss was like this, but he's like that. I wish my subordinate was like this, but they're like that. List goes on and on. I wish my mother was like this, but she's like that. I wish my mother-in-law wasn't such a, and we can keep going. Life is full of this. It doesn't end, by the way. It just gets worse. All right, so what do? I'm just going to let you in on a little secret. You're not going to get what you want. Like another million times. Over and over and over again, you're not going to get what you want. All right, now what? So the church comes along and says, what we're going to do is we're going to train you how to deal with that situation. Okay? So you wanted this husband? Yeah, but you got this husband now. Okay. You can kill him, go to jail, or you can learn to not get what you want. So the church comes along during Lent and says, okay, we're going to train this muscle with food at a very, very basic level. You want this food, but we're going to eat this. You want to eat at this time, we're going to eat at that time. You want a steak, we're going to have tameya. And we're going to teach you that even though you want that, you're going to get that. And you're going to be okay with it. And at a very basic level, the level of food, the church is trying to train us to something bigger. You see, the food doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. But what does matter is it's training a muscle. And that muscle, then I have to use to be a real Christian. And the real, and I can't tell you how many conversations I have with, adults when I say, okay, now guys, now this is the real Christianity. Forget the play and the singing the songs at church and the camps and the whatever and the teratil. That's not the real deal. The real deal is right now. Your wife sucks. And what are you going to do about it? Your life sucks. What are you going to do about it? Are you going to choose hell? Are you going to choose to battle? And every once in a while they say, yeah, I choose hell. And real Christianity is at these hard times, right? When I've got to dig in and dig deep. And the fasting is teaching me to be a Christian at the hard times. When my friend really screws me over and I have to forgive them for the 30th time. That's when it gets really hard. That's the real Christianity part. The food doesn't matter, right? It's just training. And so some people are like, I committed a big sin. I broke my fast. I don't think God cares that much about that. I don't think that's the real sin. Did I have mayonnaise on my tameya? Right? The whole act of fasting is an ascetic practice. It's a workout. The workout is training me for something else. Right? So if I'm, a football player, right? And I'm doing squats. Okay? So I'm squatting, right? I'm getting my legs to be extremely strong. The squats isn't football. The squats isn't the game. There's no Super Bowl of squatting. The squats train me because at some point I'm going to run with this ball into a line of 10,000 pounds of beef, right, of human flesh, and I'm going to push past all these guys who are trying to rip my head off. And that's when the squats are really going to come in handy. right? You see them, right? They hit the line, and you just see this guy push, and you see all those squats in the gym, and they're all coming to fruit right there, right? Because he was able to push one more yard to get the first down. Okay? The squat is just a squat. It's not the thing. The thing is the game. That's when it counts, right? And so fasting for us is an exercise. It's the exercise of control, right? Discipline. Every once in a while when I was in college, I would, tell someone, or high school, tell someone about my fasting. Of course, people freak out when you tell them how much they fast. You fast, right? They're like, oh my God, you guys fast like crazy. I say, yeah, we go 55 days and don't eat, we eat vegan. And by the way, when I was a kid, vegan wasn't cool, right? You were a freak if you ate vegan. So you guys are lucky. You guys can say, I'm vegan. They're like, oh, that's so awesome, right? We didn't get that. We're like, what's wrong with you, alien, Arab, which is what they call it. They called me towel head, sand things. Anyway. Yeah, it starts with an N. The N word. It was okay in my time to say that, not now. So anyway, you would tell them that, and they would look at you like you're a freak, first of all. And then I remember a lot of times people would tell me, like, I could never do that. I couldn't go 1 week and not eat meat. I couldn't go 1 week and fast like that. And I remember thinking to myself, when I was in college, I'd be like, really? You really can't? Like, what are you, an animal? An animal, you put anything in front of it, animal just eats. You tell the animal, control yourself. Animal isn't going to control itself. Like, you really can't discipline yourself? You can't control yourself? You have to eat something? And so you realize this fast has given me a control over myself that they don't have. I have a discipline over my flesh. I have a discipline over myself. I can pick and choose what I want to do versus what I don't want to do. Right? I've done squats, right? I've worked out the muscle, and now the muscle is strong and can do something else. But the problem comes along in the Lent, especially, when we walk into the gym and we say, I'm going to do curls, right? And I take a 1 pound dumbbell, better a ½ pound dumbbell, and I go like this. I go, wow, working out's easy. This basbousa tastes just like the real thing. I got an Impossible Burger. It's amazing. Tastes better than the real burger. This tofu-based chicken is amazing. It's better than the real chicken wings. What are you doing? Like, what are you doing? You're taking a ½ pound weight, and you're going, I'm at the gym, and I'm working out. And you're like, bro, you ain't working out. You ain't doing anything. You got a ½ pound. No, look at me. I'm going through the motions. But there's no muscle ripping. I'm not breaking down any muscle fibers. Nothing is getting stronger because I have a ½ pound weight. And my whole life is about how I can make food taste like the real thing so that I don't have to impose any limitations on myself. You can do that if you want. It's not a sin, but you're not doing anything, right? And it's not about, well, does this count? Does God count it? God doesn't care. God's not counting how many fasting days. The question is, are you exercising or not? You want to go to the gym and lift a ½ pound? Knock yourself out. Just don't be bothered when you don't get results. And you're like, I've been doing this for 9 years and actually I look the same. You're like, really? That's surprising. Nothing's changed. And are there Christians who are my age who act like they're your age? Yeah. Are there Christians who are my age who have the spiritual discipline that you guys have or younger? Yeah. Right? Instead of, learning in the 3rd grade, they decided to cheat. And so then they went to the 4th grade, but they're still mentally in the 3rd grade. They still have the maturity of a child, spiritual maturity of a child. And then the big things come of life, and they have no basis because they haven't fought the battles. They haven't gone to the gym. They didn't squat. They didn't lift weights. Does that make sense? All right, I'll end with this quote. I know we've gone long. So how do we die to ourselves? He says, this is St. Isaac the Syrian, my favorite as always. Be persecuted rather than be a persecutor. Be crucified rather than be a crucifier. Be treated unjustly rather than treat anyone unjustly. Be oppressed rather than zealous. Lay hold of goodness rather than justice. This is like so amazing. I mean, if you can do any of this, it's fantastic. Be persecuted, be crucified, be treated unjustly, be oppressed. So how do we die to ourselves? Do those things, but do them for the sake of Christ. Like when your friend or your sibling or your boyfriend, girlfriend, parent, boss, whatever, persecutes, crucifies, unjustly attacks you, accept it. Take it. Don't fight back. Let them kill the part of you that reacts. Let them kill the part of you that gets angry. I told you guys all the story of Abba Trifon 100 times, I'm sure, the Starbucks story. You guys know that one? I just love that part when someone said to Abba Trifon, only a stupid old man would believe in God. And Abba Trifon did not react. That's so impressive, right? Because I would have. And so, what does that tell me? It tells me the part of him that gets angry, that would have said something, that part's dead. He killed it. So when someone said, you're just a stupid old man who believes in God, he just said, I think I'll buy you a gift card. Habibi. Now, he wasn't like that before. He used to be a bouncer. He used to fight, bar fights. He was an angry man. This was a struggle for him. He got there by battling himself, and he won. Right. Anybody have any questions, comments, criticisms, complaints, conundrums, thoughts, anecdotes? Yes?
Like, you know how you said to always see the good in people, or like be the bead? Couldn't that be kind of dangerous to you in a way? Because you kind of look at the best of things, and then that would like lead you into trouble sometimes.
You mean like be naive?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. This is hard because, I'll tell you, as a parent, which is where most of us get our advice, and I can tell you as a parent, that my advice to my kids, is not objective. It's biased, right? So when my son tells me about anyone who said anything to him at school or at church, I react. I'm like, well, you tell him no. You tell him that you're not going to do that. You tell her blah, blah, blah. And that's me because I'm a parent and I'm hardwired to protect my kids. So I don't want to see anything bad happen to them. But that isn't always good Christian advice. Right? The better advice, if I was a good Christian father, would be forgive. Allow it for God's sake. Find the good in them. Maybe they're persecuted. Maybe they're having trouble at home. Maybe there's something else going on in their life. And sometimes that's a lot of work, right? The reason we get burnt out by being good is because we're trying to be good with an outcome, right? So, people get burnt out because well, you know what? I was nice to her 7 times, and each time she screwed me over. So you know what? I'm done, right? I'm getting walked all over, and I'm burnt out. I'm done with this, right? Now, why is this person burnt out? Well, because they were forgiving this other person, hoping for an outcome. Like, you know what? I was nice to her. I listened. I was patient, and then she still did it again, right? So you hear it, right? Why were you nice and patient? Not because Christ taught you to be nice and patient. You were being nice and patient because you're like, I want to show them how good I am, and then maybe they'll stop being an idiot. Okay? So I'm waiting for an outcome. When you wait for an outcome, it's a rough life. Don't wait for outcomes. That's how you get walked all over and trampled, because you're waiting for an outcome, for something to change. The real Christian, it's unconditional love. Right? I'm not waiting for an outcome. I'm not going to be nice to you because being nice to you means you're going to be nice to me. I don't care if you're nice to me. Right? So the calling of the Christian isn't, no one ever told you you're going to be loved as a Christian. The calling of the Christian is to love, not to be loved. Right? In fact, if you look at from the very beginning, I mean, what they do to Jesus, they killed him meanly. And all he did was nice things. If you look at the lives of the saints, I mean, all the people around here, right? You look at their stories, they're all persecuted. They all got tons of crap. And they're just being nice, right? And then in the end, they kill them and behead them. Right? So as a Christian, there's no promise that you're going to be loved, that people will like you, that everyone will be like, oh, wow, you're great. No, you will be persecuted. I mean, that's what Jesus told us. He says, what they did to me, they're going to do to you. Right? So when we give and we love, we have to do it without expecting an outcome. We do it for the right reason. If you do it for the right reason, then I don't really care what you do with it. Right? It's like when you go to a homeless shelter, right? And this happened to me. You give somebody something and you say, hey, God bless you, have a nice day. And he goes, hey, F you, and he spits in your face. Okay, I'm not there for him. I'm there to serve Christ. Right? So I don't care if you like what I did or not. I'm not looking for you to say, thank you for coming. You guys are so amazing. God bless you guys. If I'm looking for that, then I'm in a world of hurt, because I'm going to be very disappointed. And I'm going to go to that soup kitchen one more time and I'm done. Next person says something to me, I went there twice and it was lame and some guy cussed me out. So I'm not going again. Well, that's because you went for the wrong reason. Right? So if I go there because I want to just love and I don't care what you're going to do back, no problem. You can spit on me all day. In fact, that would be better, right? Because now I'm doing it without any hope, right? This is why Christ told us to give to the poor. Because the poor are the one group of people who can't help you. Everyone else, if I go and I serve Abuna or the bishop, right? He knows me. Remember Abuna when I did that thing? Abuna's got all the power. Bishop's got all the power. I cozy up with the powerful people. I do them favors. They do me favors. I had to go to some homeless guy who smells like garbage. And what's he going to do for me? Nothing. He can do nothing for me, right? And so that's why Christ tells us, give to those people. So anyway, yeah, you could get walked all over. And of course there's a wisdom here, right? Because, let's go back to squatting. I don't know why. If you want to get better at squatting, or anything, if you try to squat 600 pounds, right? And guys do this all the time, right? You guys know, right? Go to the gym, I can do this, let's go, right? And then they snap a vertebrae. I watch these guys, just a matter of time before you snap a vertebrae, right? Just they deadlift, they're so stupid. Anyway, you're going too heavy too soon, right? So you're not getting a workout at that point. You're just breaking yourself, right? So there's also there's a wisdom, and this is where the Father in confession comes very handy, right? I can only give so much, right? And at some point I have to realize if I'm out of my depth, and so you balance it. That's a good question. Sorry, went on and on. Any other? Yes?
So what happens if you do snap?
Oh, what happens if you do snap? Yeah, you will. Oh, all right, I went too far. Just get up, right? You snapped. I bit off more than I can chew. I'm clearly not there. And sometimes in the spiritual life, especially when we read the lives of the saints, we fantasize a little bit about ourselves. Like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to be like St. Anthony, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to want to be persecuted, and I'm going to ask people to persecute me, and I'm going to do good, hoping that people persecute me, and and you kind of romanticize spiritual life. And then you'll get burned, right? But that's okay. That's a learning experience, right? That's good for you. Right? Then you realize, okay, I wasn't ready for that. Right? And you learn from that experience, right? I mean, it's kind of like the only way you're going to know where the line is in anything is to cross it, right? And that's a healthy, normal part of life. Cross the line, that was a bad idea. Go back, that's where the line is, right? But you want to know where the line is too, right? It's good to experiment. It's good to push yourself and see what you can and can't do, and then learn from the mistake. Nothing, no shame in that. And as St. Isaac says, be persecuted rather than be a persecutor, right? So, this goes back to your question, right? If I had to pick, be persecuted. Be the one persecuted. Don't be the persecutor. If you have to pick on that side. I would rather be walked all over than walk all over someone else. And making that decision is hard, right? Because it's easy to walk all over people, right? Accidentally sometimes. And so go out of your way to not be that. Good. Any other questions? Comments, thoughts? All right, you guys are a quiet group today. I'll stop mirroring. Didn't really stop. Yes.